The too long didn't watch version of this video is this. With the way things are moving right now and tech becoming more and more integral to our lives, the human connection is going to become more valuable than ever. And if you as an artist can find ways to leverage that connection through your art, whether it's through entertainment or brain rot, education, information, storytelling, your vibe, you'll be just fine. And if you decide to put art to the side in order to survive and take up another job, that's fine too. Just don't put down art as a whole, alright? All it boils down to is a shift in mindset and to set aside labels and beliefs that there's only one true way to live off of art. So to answer the question, will artists survive 2025? Yes.
That's a stupid ass question.
If this is your first time on this channel, hello, I'm a 2-year-old hobby artist and I usually cover topics about art, and I'll occasionally talk about games and other topics. Feel free to have discussions in the comment section, but please do keep it civil. Now, I'm not here to sell you a course, nor am I here to sell you a dream, but rather share my observations. I'll be honest, I've been hesitant to make this video because, this is an outsider's perspective, but for the sake of opening discussion, here we are. Throughout 2024, I've seen some doom and gloom from those within and outside the art sphere, and I'll be very honest, I have also fed into it, but after stepping back and taking some time to think, I wanted to fight back against that fear. And if you're an artist, hopefully this will give you that glimmer of hope. The path of becoming an artist in recent years has become quite the paradox, with all the tools available such as YouTube tutorials, free drawing programs, and both online and offline workshops and courses. There's literally no better time to learn how to art. Literally, all you need is the willingness to learn, pencil and paper, and if you want to be a little fancy, you can draw on your phone.
Do you guys not have phones?
I myself started drawing as a hobby about 2 years ago, watching tutorials from artists like Draw Like a Sir, Proco, Marco Bucci, Mark Renee, Christoph Young, Guways, Samna's Arts, names I've only come to know 2 years ago. These are just among the many artists around the world I've learned from over the course of 2 years, all of whom are from, different parts of the world, like I said, and while admittedly I still have a long way to go and being inconsistent with practice, it's been wonderful learning from their lessons. Of the many gifts the internet has given us access to tutorials, whether they're paid for or not, through YouTube or other websites, it's arguably one of the greatest gifts. Knowledge at your fingertips. Like I said, literally no better time to learn how to develop artistic skills. But simultaneously, if the recent years are of any indication, there is no worse time to be an artist. As we all know, this is due to the advent of generative AI. Now, it's a polarizing conversation, so whichever side of the conversation you're on in terms of Gen AI, it's up to you. Come to your own conclusions about the matter. In my previous video, I covered and investigated the allegations made against a game called Catly, which was revealed during the Game Awards, and upon first viewing it, many, including myself, assumed the trailer was AI generated. After I saw this comment made under the trailer video, I decided to take a closer look at the trailer and, surprise surprise, while I found that the trailer itself most likely wasn't generated through AI, there were some cards at the end and some deleted sections from their website that I assume are AI generated. And a few days later, Bellular News, which if you guys don't know, he's a YouTuber who covers the games industry, released a video covering one of the largest companies in the gaming sphere, Activision Blizzard. Now, I'm not gonna explain the whole thing, but the gist of his video covered how the company is slowly increasing the influence of generative AI in the creative process through small doses, as Bellular puts it. And that was seen through official released art having telltale signs of generative AI, and voice actors also declining paychecks from the company. That's a trend we've been seeing throughout 2024, and as Bellular reported, there have been over 15,000 recorded layoffs. I encourage you guys to watch the video as Bellular does a pretty good job covering the story. I think it goes without saying that the past few years has been quite unkind to artists, especially the Concord artists. I can't imagine what they had to go through. With major sites like Etsy, Pinterest, ArtStation, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook slowly becoming overrun with AI-generated images, attention is being taken away from artists who used to thrive on those sites. With the advent of generative AI and how companies are always finding ways to cut costs, if you're an artist looking to get into, any professional work or just, simply supporting yourself with your artwork, those opportunities are becoming more and more scarce. But that isn't to say that everything is all doom and gloom. Throughout the past few years, we've also seen glimmers of hope with countries around the world now working towards more regulations when it comes to the usage of generative AI. We've also seen a research team at the University of Chicago step up and develop 2 pieces of software that allows artists to add layers of protection to their finished artwork, those being Glaze and Nightshade. And for all the talk you hear about Glaze and Nightshade being quote-unquote ineffective, a spokesperson for OpenAI has recently stated that the company considers it abusive. So, if those words are anything to go by, Nightshade and Glaze are doing what they say they're going to do. We've also seen the rise of Kara, a website for artists where they can share their artwork and also find jobs. The site exploded in the number of users, with the creator herself, Jingna Zhang, who is also an artist, having to shell out money from her own pocket to sustain the website, all while battling her own lawsuit. We've also seen companies take a stand against generative AI, and one of the most notable of those being the CEO of Procreate, James Kuda himself, stepping up to say,
I really fucking hate generative AI. I don't like what's happening in the industry, and I don't like what it's doing to artists.
And if it's anything we've seen in 2024, there's starting to be a bit of an opinion against generative AI. And it's not just opinions against AI-generated images, it also encompasses AI-generated voices and videos, with content creators going out of their way to even make videos about how it's ruining the internet. And here's a handful of Reddit posts complaining about the topic. If you have the eyes of a hawk and the ears of a fox, and if you read between the lines just a tad bit, or if you pause the video on some of the Reddit posts, you'll come to the conclusion that humans, no matter the technological advancements, will always want that human essence, that authenticity. And I believe that as long as humans are seeking out that human connection, artists will always survive. I mean, how many of you have watched videos on YouTube and TikTok that use the AI voice and clicked off the video? It is a bit grating to listen to, right? The words most commonly being used and repeated by quote-unquote tech bros to artists, almost like a mantra, are the words adapt or die. And artists have and are adapting. Something I've noticed in the time since I've started doing art as a hobby over 2 years ago, there's a bit of a meme saying that artists are notorious for not knowing how to market their art and only want to focus on making art. Don't worry, I'm not here to sell you a course, I'm just sharing my observations. And there are artists who are leaning into that need for human connection to bring attention to their work, a trend I'm seeing more and more. And that connection is primarily coming through education, information, and entertainment. That aside though, the saying does have a bit of truth into it, but I have observed a bit of a shift in the mindset when it comes to making a living off of art. Now, before someone says it, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to make money off of your art. I agree, passion is important, but passion doesn't pay the bills. At the start of the video, I mentioned knowledge being so easily accessible on the internet, and with the demand for knowledge, there will always be a demand for teachers. I know, nothing groundbreaking. With many people, such as myself, wanting to learn how to draw and are willing to pay for that educational content, combined with the current state of the industry and artists looking for alternative ways to earn money through their craft and their knowledge of their craft, more and more artists are stepping up to the plate to fill that need for knowledge. One of the first pioneers of teaching art through YouTube, and probably the most well-known, is of course Stan Prokopenko, or Proko. I think for those of us in the art sphere, it goes without saying that he's an extremely successful artist and educator, with many around the world learning from his detailed tutorials, and many would argue that his channel alone is sufficient enough to get you very, very far if you're looking to be a self-taught artist. He's gotten to the point where he now employs other artists to provide tutorials, and even has his own website where he can go through courses not just from Proko himself, but from other artists as well, such as Marco Bucci, Steven Zapata, Ahmed Al-Duri, Trent Kaniga, and surprisingly a course from Marvel. And now there are other artists emulating Proko's business model, where they provide YouTube tutorials for free, and if their audience chooses to do so, they can purchase art courses and lessons curated by the artists themselves. The one I'm most familiar with is Mark Brunet, who used to work at Blizzard. Now I know someone in the comments is probably gonna say, why pay for art education when you can get it for free? Look, free is the best price, I agree. But sometimes people need that guidance to steer them in the right direction, and getting critiqued by a proven industry professional is worth the price if you're willing to pay for it. And it's my belief that artwork isn't the only thing that artists can, I know artists are gonna hate this word, but I'm gonna say it anyway, monetize. Like I said, knowledge is also monetizable, and there's always gonna be someone willing to pay for it. Then you got artists who combine both their art and personalities to make entertaining content. I know some of you just cringed at the word content, but bear with me here, okay? Obviously, this type of entertainment comes through the form of videos, whether it's short and long form, and some artists even go with the streaming route. Oftentimes, artists will also combine both the entertainment and education aspect in these videos. One of the most notable artists who's garnered support through entertaining short-form content that actually has substance is this 3D animator called Gene Animate. He released a pretty cool short video of dinosaurs swinging weapons, which created a demand for a game to be made with that vision, and now he's gotten massive support from his audience, even those who aren't into art, and is now working hard to develop that game. And then of course, there are artists who provide information about the art world and what's happening within it, keeping their audience members up to date whether or not the audience is actively participating in the sphere. Oftentimes, these artists would combine both education and entertainment to convey the information they want to provide. Artists I know of who fit into this category would probably be the likes of Tyler Edlin, Trent Kaniga, Inkwell, and Saya Mystery. Again, I know there are probably other artists in the platform who do the same thing and would probably be a better fit in this category, but I've only been in the space for 2 years and only have so much time to watch all these amazing artists. The obvious thing you'll notice about the artists I mentioned is that they have and are building an audience, building a community not just through their art but through their content and personalities as well. Leveraging those factors, it allows them to funnel their audience to purchase their artwork or support them through subs if they choose to do so. Eventually, with the attention they're getting, this also opens the opportunity to accept sponsorships. But the less obvious thing that they're doing is they're creating opportunities for themselves. The way I'm looking at it right now, and feel free to disagree, it's one thing to be keeping your work offline for multiple reasons, right? Maybe you don't want to bother with making a social media account and consistently post work on there and you want to keep things local. Those are completely valid reasons. Social media is a ton of work, and in its current state and the way things are going, some would argue it's not worth it. I do agree with, to some extent. But what I would argue is that it gives you what I was talking about earlier, reach. Obviously, it's a lot easier said than done, a lot easier than it actually is, but the concept still stands. And with how tumultuous the times are right now for artists, they'll need to start wearing different hats. I know it's grating and cringy to hear, but these days it's starting to look like passion for the craft and the quality of the artwork just aren't enough anymore, and someone's artwork, whether someone sees it as good or bad, it's just too subjective. Look, I'm not denying that people don't buy artwork just because of the quality, alright? It is a fact that there will always be people who do that. But with the floodgates open and entry-level jobs being threatened, it's more important than ever for artists to figure out a way to stand out from the crowd. And one thing you can do is find an added value you can bring to your artwork, whether it's education, entertainment, storytelling, information, knowledge, your personality, your vibe, things that will resonate with people. Remember, art is not just for artists, galleries, or large companies to see, it's for people outside the sphere as well. What are the things that will make people keep coming back to you and your art and actively seek you out? How do you and your art resonate with people? The art can speak for itself, but what else can you offer? In a world where society is becoming more and more glued to technology, and with tech becoming more integral to our lives, I believe humans will always be seeking out that human connection, something that's going to become more important than ever. It's also my belief that artists will always find ways to adapt to the ever-changing environment. You can fail, but don't give up. Find a path forward, even if that means putting art to the side in order to survive. But don't put down that brush. At the top of the video, I mentioned that I'm a hobby artist, and some of you are probably thinking this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. What dog does he have in the fight? You're right, I don't know what I'm talking about, but my dog in the fight is the artist community. All the amazing artists I come to know of, all the artists I have yet to discover, all the crazy shit I've seen artists come up with, all the artists whose work resonates with people around the world, myself included. Anyway, that's it for the video. I know I kind of focused on the digital art and social media side of things, so if any of you do traditional art and are finding ways to survive offline, drop those ideas down in the comments. And if you have other ideas of surviving in the landscape, feel free to share them too. Like I said, don't give in to fear, be not afraid. There are always ways to survive. Wear different hats. Keep all those doors open. Anyway, I have goals I want to achieve this year, like getting into 3D modeling, drawing more men, just leveling up in general. Anyway, as always, keep it civil. See ya.